Hi, my name is Chris Abraham. Welcome to Digital and Online Reputation Management. This presentation is for Goodwill Industries International, Inc. during their 2014 summer conference in Orlando, Florida. This presentation will be made on Wednesday, August 6th, 2014, between 1:30 and 2:30 p.m. in the room Northern E3. I am your presenter, your speaker, Chris Abraham. I am Principal Consultant of Garris Corp. We are a digital PR and social media marketing company. I am focused on blogger outreach, influencer outreach, SEO, search engine optimization, and online reputation management. And that's why we're here today. Please feel free to contact me in any of the below ways. I'm very open to any engagement. You can connect to me at Twitter, LinkedIn, Google, Facebook, YouTube, SlideShare, Pinterest, all as Chris Abraham, one word. You can also email me at chris@garriscorp.com. Go to one of the forums on garriscorp.com site, or call me or text me at 202-352-5051. Intro to Online Reputation Management. What is ORM exactly? It's basically how you are reflected in search, namely Google search. It is not necessarily the initial surge of crisis, of crime, of coverage, of attack, of slander, although a lot of those things are part of the strategy when I am connected to a crisis management or reputation shop. However, what I am is the person who comes in after the bombing is over, after the crime is done, and I do the cleaning. I don a hazmat suit, I get a bucket of bleach and a brush, and I start scrubbing on your behalf. Everybody's a reputation online, whether you want to or not, no matter how coy or quiet or submerged you are. Google desperately wants to know you because people want to know you. And even if you don't give Google anything to give to anybody who searches for you, Google will become very bizarre in its mad attempt to find you out and give someone something. And generally that can be something very embarrassing, very bad, very old, and very irrelevant. Even someone else, for example, there's a amazing award-winning Toronto-based director by the name of Chris Abraham. What people say about your company, reviews of your company, mainstream media, press releases, academic trade publications, photos, videos, public records, mugshots from getting pulled over or arrested in Florida, by the way. When I worked at Reputation.com, lots of people called us up to try to get us at the time to help them get them off of search results for their incarceration or their overturned appeal or even just their DUI. Google's too easy. Google is at the end of Bing or Google or Yahoo is at the end of every Siri search, every OK Google, Google Now search, every Android and iPhone and BlackBerry on all of our browsers by default. There's no filter. Everything's available all the time. And the web is forever, unless you're watching this from Europe, in which case if you have enough money, time, energy, and desire, there can be certain levels of scrubbing. I'll let you know if any of that changes here. How people search. People are hunt and peckers. They have very low discernment. When it comes to advertising and organic in search results, people don't discern between them. They might not care. They might think that if someone's willing to pay for something, it might be valuable, or there might be a certain level of due diligence and anti-fraud that Google exerts on AdWords. But people don't discern between sponsored ads. They don't discern between um, even, you know, native advertising in editorial content. So 53% of users do not go past the first two results for any given search. 89% of users do not go past page 1 for any given search, and 99% of users do not go past page 2 for any given search. You are judged primarily by the first page of your search results, and pretty much judged by the first half of the page. There's a lot of reasons. Think about online reputation management as SEO for everything and not just your own brand under a few keywords. This will be clear in just a few minutes. The key statistics, 80% of reputation damage risk comes from the mismatch between the buzz and the reality. So you might have a great marketing strategy. You might have, for example, you might have the best trailer in the entire world for a movie, but the moment the first person goes to the movie and sees it and writes a review on Rotten Tomatoes or tweets that this is a real piece of, you know, nobody else is going to go. I mean, there can be, there might be a first wash during the first day, but after the news gets out that there's a rift between the hype and the truth, there's going to be a huge amount of online discussion volume. Some of it might be ephemeral, like tweets. Some of it might be a permanent blow, such as a bad review on Rotten Tomatoes, which is the least of your worries. 75% reputation risk is the greatest risk facing companies, with as much as 75% of a company's value based on reputation. And 92% of internet users read product reviews, and 89% of people say that reviews influence their purchasing decision. Now, listen, to be honest with you, nobody has any discernment between whether those reviews are shill reviews or whether they're trumped up or whether they're all of your friends. Like I said, they don't have much discernment. But there needs to be reviews there, and it would behoove you if you could activate your natural tribe, your friends and family, all the people who worked with you or who've benefited from your existence in the world, to get them to go out there and become the voice, the emergent voice. Nothing funny, no monkey business, but there's a lot of opportunities to get way ahead of the reputation problem by armoring and preparing for the inevitable angry patron, customer, patient, guest. 86%. Auto dealerships with few online reviews or negative average scores saw their search referral traffic drop by as much as 86% when Google started placing reviews under business websites. A difference of 1 star in the average rating in a typical online business profile can lead to a 5 to 9% difference in revenues. 72% of customers trust online reviews as much as word of mouth. One might say it is word of mouth, right? Word of mouth marketing, buzz marketing. Buzz marketing in a world where you can be fisked, and F-I-S-K, Fisk, is a fellow who would do real-time checks online, kind of idiot checks, checks and balances. Getting fisked means that you go ahead and put out a perception, a concept, a marketing concept of reality that is out of sync, like I said before, with the truth. Bozo checked, if you will. 85% of consumers conduct online research before making a purchase, and 89% trust online reviews. And there's no discernment. Get stuff up there. There's no review police. which is to say that your competitor down the block is not being prevented in any real way from slandering you in a passive-aggressive way. So the rule that we're going to repeat here over and over and over again is populate the, the world in your image before someone else goes ahead and populates it in theirs on behalf of you. Consumers are 25% more likely to research online reviews for high-cost purchases, such as automobiles. And don't forget that 25% is on top of the 89%, or 72%, or 86%. You know, that means that the more expensive something gets, the more they're going to check. There's a I oftentimes, I mean, you'll probably see when you look at me that I sometimes use buzz clippers to cut my own hair in between haircuts. And I spent so much time deciding upon buying the Wall Senior 5-star. Not the Senior, not this other one, not a number of other solutions. I ended up getting the Wall Senior 5-star because I watched videos on YouTube, I read reviews. It's incredible. And that was only, what, $65, $70. Imagine the kind of research one does. And not only that, but people traditionally research the stuff that they bought afterwards. They become attached to the decision they make, and they end up tending to be the Gomers, the mentors of people who are making those decisions into the future. Online reputation threats. Dum dum dum. Inflammatory Google suggestions. Google is a very respected rumor mill. They give you more of what you want. They're kind of like TMZ or Huffington Post. They'll give you. They want to give you news. They want to give you trust. They want to give you credibility. But at the end of the day, they'll give you Nazis. They'll suggest, using their algorithm, searches that you might want to search. That can include terrible, terrible things about you. It's very expensive to get those things off of there. So it's very important to armor yourself so that these kinds of suggested searches don't ever come up. Later in the talk, I'm going to tell you that if you see anything bad about yourself, do not click on it, because high search volume creates a feedback loop. Google thinks that any click makes something more relevant, and you will be the own maker of your own bed that you need to sleep in, as you and everybody in your company clicks on the negative link to see what it says, and before you know it, it's pushing out your first result. People want the rumor mill. People hunt the rumor mill. Google is not a moral authority. It gives people what they want. Usually it's authority, but oftentimes it's rumors and innuendo. And once people see the awful stuff, it gives it more authority because they click on it and they just want to see it. And if you end up clicking the Nazi search, that means that the Nazi search is even more interesting to you than even the discrete clicks within the page that's already there. The web is forever. It's not like LinkedIn where you can, or Facebook where you can delete entire parts of your drunken, hazy undergrad, or you can remove parts of your life when you were down and depressed and posting some very, very sad songs, or when you were serial-monogamous, and there's a lot of people that you don't want your new significant other to know about. Google doesn't care about that. I have one friend who's so angry at me because I have a history. My blog's down now, so all of his photos aren't there anymore. But I've photographically have taken pictures of my friends from, some of them are 10 years younger. Like, I'm 44. They were 24 when I first met them. They're 34 now. And at 24, spent a lot of time at sports bars, playing pool, watching games, having a beer in your hand. And at some point, my buddy O tipped and became very serious and very professional. And he asked me to take these pictures down, and of course I supported his choice. But he's lucky. I mean, I'm a friend, and I am not going to stand my ground. I want to make my friends happy. Um, but if you have a vacuum, he's very in control of his reputation now, to his detriment. There's a vacuum when it comes to searching for him, and anything, even an unhappy ex could very easily put him into a place of very, very high embarrassment. So things from the '90s can come back. Um, I love it that Google has a deep memory because I can't remember anything, and I can always search Google to try to find things that I've done. But it might not benefit you if you've reinvented yourself. If you went from, like, my career is pretty diverse. I started out as an English major studying um, postmodernist theory, and then became a programmer and a developer, and then a marketer, and then a PR guy, and then an entrepreneur, and a social media blah blah blah. So I embrace it. Other people don't like the course of their life. Their narrative of their life is inconsistent. And while that can be controlled and contained on LinkedIn and on Facebook, it can't be contained on Google. You just need to pile in and contribute more and more of today, and then the old stuff will just become less and less compelling and then bubble down as your good content bubbles up. Search results are not chronological. They're based on reputation, on clickbacks, on relevance, on interest, on click-throughs, on search results. They're even connected to how quick your web server is. So I know that you guys probably don't have all of your various and sundry local Goodwill websites hosted on some super fast server on the backbone of the internet. That might not be the case, but I find people who are so frustrated that they can't get the first position when everything about everything they do suggests that with their SEO, their search engine optimization, they should have the number one result. And then I'll do an audit and realize that they have their entire website on a $4.95, shared hosting service that's slow. They have a WordPress blog that doesn't have any caching, that doesn't have any optimization. The database is a mess. The server is overburdened, and the server is very far away from the data backbone. And it's not that their stuff isn't worthy of the first spot, first, second, third spot. It's just that Google always wants to give people a beautiful handoff. Google's a fast site, which is why it's so ugly and minimal. And when you search for something and click through, whether it's on a mobile device or via your web, the pass off needs to be seamless, because this person who searches, if there's a DNS delay, a lag, if it's laggy, if it's slow, if it doesn't come in quickly, Google will definitely deprioritize it. Google punishes you, penalizes you for having a slow, unresponsive server, and that might be what's keeping you down. So who knows what the results here, what's going to benefit them. It certainly does benefit you to have some handsome photos up there, very well labeled as to being you. It definitely behooves you to make sure that you have content on really fast sites such as Forbes and Huffington and Medium and Blogger.com and WordPress.com and other sites that are wicked fast. And it definitely behooves you to go ahead and keep on producing new, current, interesting, compelling, good titles, interesting descriptions, timely, appealing, provocative, even controversial, as a way of kind of pushing out those those results that are in many ways archival, but they're not all archival because they're the only things out there that are viable and interesting enough to people. You need to crowd those things out. Old news. A good reputation requires positive, high-quality validations by third parties. The D.E. Shaw Group has good control of the top few results, but the rest are misleading and give poor impression. If DSEO or online reputation management, defensive SEO, is not about controlling the first result. SEO is easy compared to online reputation management because you only need to get the first result. If you're lucky and you have a beautifully categorized and archetyped site, architected site, you will possibly take up 3 or 4 spots with your one site. However, it's important to crowd out as much of the top 10 search results as possible because you might fortify, half your fort, but if the other half of your fort is open, then they're going to steal your horses. Outdated news, no positive performance. Even if you've done an about face, all I could think of is Comcast or whatnot. Even if you've done an about face and you've recovered and you are now the top of your game, in other words, it doesn't matter if you unsuck if nobody knows that you unsuck. So make sure that people look, right? You need to make sure that you have a majority stake in your current reputation. There's misinformation. Google sometimes gets confused and connects different search points. Search for Monsanto brings up the suggestion Whole Foods. People look at that. They wonder if maybe Monsanto bought Whole Foods out. That can be a conspiracy, can be misleading, could be your competitor trying to make accusations that the vegan, organic, fresh, humane, grass-fed peaches that you bought are in fact just GMO peaches off the back of imported from China. So you need to make sure that you find these bizarre connections and that you try to address them. You can address an article such as Whole Foods Market is the antithesis of Monsanto. You need to use those words against those results. You need to speak to those results. As you will find out later, sticking your head in the sand and hoping it goes away might just encourage it. We have a reputation economy. Vodafone sucks, and so did Comcast. Depending on how poorly people treat you or you treat people, there could be an entire economy of how much people hate you. As we knew from 10 years ago, there was an entire Twitter, Facebook, not even from that long ago, but 2007, 2008, 2009, an entire world of Comcast sucks, an entire world of domain names and websites and blogs devoted to how much these services suck. And you need to find a way of engaging that because online reputation is often more important than brand. And, I must say that the other way you can do it is become a complete megalith, complete monopoly. I know that in my apartment building, I can only get Comcast. So monopoly wins in this case, but online, if anybody has a choice, they can vote with their dollars. Key people affect a company's reputation. A little bit later, I'm going to talk about domain name buying. You need to make sure that you don't only track your organization, that you track your staff, your board, key members of your community, both current and in the past. Because to be honest, honestly, if your staff member is a crazy billionaire, that might reflect well on you, but this guy, Gerard Versteeg, has received criticism online for his extravagant taste. Top of his search results is an inflammatory post on crazybillionaire.org. This result ranks on a search for his company too. Is that a compliment? Commercial States Group, the fact that people are billionaires is a direct result? It's up to you. And one of the most important things that you need to do when you talk to your communications team, your crisis team, and so forth, Goodwill, nonprofits are a messy business. I do a lot of volunteering with an organization here called Miriam's Kitchen, and we help the homeless, we feed the homeless, we clothe the homeless, and our one single-minded goal is to get the homeless men and women that are our guests into affordable housing and stay, to get them to take their meds, to get treatment, to be healthy, to choose better, to make better choices, and then to move ahead into independence. But that's messy. It's a messy road. So as a result, you need to decide where your point of pain is going to be. Are you going to be, white shoe, Gucci, white shoe law firm with a very strict protocol? Or are you going to have more of a sense of humor about it and realize that a crazy billionaire is publicity? It's up to you. So here's another example of the push and pull between a CEO, an ex-CEO, a former CEO, and the current relationship between the company and a known figure. You can go ahead and online reputation management is not search engine optimization. No matter what happens, no matter how much money you pour into optimizing all of your properties online, meaning your website and so forth, you can really only control the top. You can't control things like the news, images, inline video and search, and so forth. So you need to think holistically and realize that it's not just creating web content, creating video content, it's about creating graphical content. It's about thinking about whenever you put an image, or even putting an image, an inline image into a blog post, and then tagging it and labeling it correctly, and giving it an alt tag and an image name, etc. These are things that you need to be, worried about, and then you need to worry about whether or not you need to pick up the phone and call your crisis management and public affairs team to make sure that you can see if you can do some counter messaging, if you can put out some press releases, if you can call your contacts at Reuters or Fox Business, and if you can get one of your folks on the hot seat or in an AP story or whatnot. At the end of the day, there's a confluence. There's a confluence between what I do, which is to clean up the bombed out breeze block apartment block and try to restore it with clean glass and good structure and so forth, paint it up to make it look like before there was any bombing. There's also a really important thing to know, which is I cost 10 times as much if my job is to put together, is to clean up a crime scene or an alleged crime scene or a perceived crime scene while that crime is being committed, while those rockets are dropping, than it is if you can go ahead and through your communications process and crisis management and through real-time engagement, you can find a way of slowing that down so that I can get my business done of doing the cleaning without being afraid of it happening all over again. Or, I used to use an analogy of rockets and so forth, but I guess it's a terrible time to do that. But it's the concept of the broken window, in inner city, or like a neighborhood in Detroit, let's say, or DC back in the 80s. One argues that one broken window can show that the city block is no longer maintained. And my job is to make sure that I never let a fluorescent bulb burn out. I never let a light burn out. I never let paint crack and flake. And I never let I always replace every pane of glass that's even a little bit cracked or marred. You can do the same thing. You can armor, you can clean, you can paint yourself. I'm just saying that it's much easier for me. It'll be much easier for you if you can work in concert with two things. Both get to know your communications person, work on, we'll talk about it later, but work on talking points. Do not talk, do not wing it. Do not make comments on your own. Um, you are not part of the citizen journalism. You need to be within the confines of the larger brand. Because even if I have Goodwill, DC metro area, I still have to remember that that's directly connected to GII. Um, so let's move on. Oh, and the other thing is armoring. A lot of this stuff doesn't stick if you have a good enough control of your reputation already. Online brand attacks by consumer. See, you can really control your first result, but if you all of a sudden, if you do something really bad or if you're perceived in a really negative way, it can really take off. And those things happen in Reddit. They happen on places like Ripoff Report, complaints board. They happen organically in message boards and forums. You're like, message boards and forums? Does anybody use those anymore? Yes, the long-term, deep, persistent conversations are still happening in groups and online message boards. Um, and it's so tough to clean a rip-off report. Oh my God! And I even think there might be methods that they have of extorting. Uh, that's well, there might be methods that they have of pay to play. There might be fees that they charge to remove problems. I don't know. But like I said, um, armoring is so much cheaper than cleaning, fixing, and so forth. And knocking down a ripoff report, so hard, so hard. Defamatory attacks by former clients. This happens a lot with the uh, the patients of therapists and psychologists and psychiatrists. Happens also with dentists and doctors. There's generally a feeling of personal slight, of a desire for vengeance, of being, and a lot of these personal feelings of being, what is the word, of being thrown to the curb, let's say, of being betrayed, results in a life's dedication towards destroying you and messing up your life. Um, can be it needs to be appeased. Something needs to be fixed. Um, Suing generally makes it worse. When people are desperate and they feel really betrayed, they're willing to completely trash their life. Another time this happens is during divorces. Oh man, divorces. The way people who used to be in love treat each other. They open boxes of intimate photos. They put them onto websites. They do terrible things. Um, I hope this never happens to you guys. It's really awful. And this is the darkest part, the worst place where the internet lives. And it's never occurred to me, or if it has, I'm so well armored over my first, 8 pages that I don't even know if I'd ever find out unless someone told me. Anyway, let's move ahead. Mistaken identity. My former business partner's name is Mark Harrison. Can you imagine how many Mark Harrisons there are? My name's Chris Abraham. Like I told you, I think I mentioned that I have a doppelganger in Toronto who is a director of play. He's a playwright and a director of stage, and he's amazing. He wins awards all the time, and people mistake me for him all the time on Twitter. It's very charming. I feel like I need to pass on the karma to him. He's not strongly powerful on social, or I'd have to fight hard because he's pretty popular in. Or maybe when you go up to Canada, maybe up in Canada, the only search results that come up are for him. Um, it's very interesting to see how, depending on where you're looking at the internet, where you're looking at search in Google, depends on what you see. Whether you're logged into your Google account, whether Google knows that there's a high tendency for your friends to see things that you have produced and for you to see things that your friends have produced by way of having you in their inbox and having them in your inbox. It's very interesting. One of the ways that you need to look at social search, you need to look at search online, at least with Google, is to find a way of looking at it from someone else's computer, or to go through an anonymizer, so that you can then see the search without it being encumbered with your relationship to it. But that doesn't change the fact that other people have relationship to their search. So it's very difficult to get a clear idea of what other people are seeing. Google is getting better and better and better at customizing these particular things for each particular user. How to armor before a crisis. This is important. So I'm sorry I wasted all your time up until now. So I will put notes in this video where you can quickly go to this point in time. Google abhors a vacuum. If you leave your reputation to chance online, Google will fill the void that is left by your inattention or fear. You need to create fresh content. And gaping void, Hugh. Nature abhors a vacuum. Clue Train abhors a gatekeeper. There he is, sucker. Get the sucker. Nature abhors a vacuum. Ha ha ha. Creating online content and dominating search is not about filling Google with junk, but you need to fill the void. So you need to hide a needle in a needle stack. My girlfriend edited this for me, and she said, well, wouldn't you be hiding a needle in a haystack? I'm like, yeah, but there's ways of finding stuff. This is like hiding a needle in a needle stack, because search is search is search. So controlling and owning your reputation online depends on pushing negative content down past page 3 of Google, etc., owning all the beans. Users typically retain their browser's default setting of 10 results per page. And remember that 93% of people never go beyond the first page of search engine results, and almost no one goes beyond page 3. And online reputation management is akin to defensive SEO. People are already talking about you online. You need to listen before you leap. You need to get to know what people are saying about you online. You need to be specific. Include your staff and executives. Don't make any assumptions. The cheapest way, easiest way to do search is just to search Twitter and then do a Google search and see what's there. I use SDL SM2. A lot of other people use Sysomos or Radian. I got a demo today of a great, very, very expensive tool, like 30 grand a year, called Synthesis. But anyway, there are a lot of tools. Google can get you started. I also recommend checking out Hootsuite, HOOTSUITE.com. There's also Sprout Social, and there's Octopost, OKTOPOST.com. Very interesting tools. I should have put them down here. You need to be specific, though. Note potential allies and enemies. Collect a list of people who are already talking about you. Consider who you may engage. Keep an eye out for those who are already critical. People are already talking about you online, so get an alert, right? Google Alerts are free. Just need to know a little bit of Google search strategy. I have one for Chris Abraham. There are online tools that will let you get to know if you, your brand, and your staff are mentioned online. Google Alerts is still free. Sysomos Heartbeat is pretty cool. SDL SM2 and Radian 6, like I said before. pretty interesting tools. They have dashboards, they have historical searches. You can look at things geographically, psychographically, demographically. Very interesting. Some of them are very expensive, so um, but maybe there could be site licenses. I know that I need to find out the name of that. Um, the name of that company that I talked to today. They were so good. Synthesio sounds like a character from Shakespeare. Here we go. It is. Here we are. It is called. Yikes! It's really funny. Talk about making things hard to discover. I'll find that out in a second. I can figure it out here. I'll move forward. Synthesio, synthesio.com. So they're very expensive, but I haven't seen anything better. I just had the demo today, so this is new intel. Kind of a little bit like SDL, SM2 plus, plus Sysomos. Pretty cool. Anyway, general principles of online reputation management. Prevention is more effective and less expensive than treatment. Aim to control as many of the search results as possible. Diversity is important. Choose a number of sites. Can't just be on your main domain. That'll all get squished up at the top. Empty search results create vulnerability. Google abhors a vacuum. Avoid clicking on negative critical websites, which increases their relevance. No, no, no. Almost never comment on a critical blog or forum. Avoid communicating with attackers. Avoid discussing the defamation, defamation in online channels, and be proactive with online reviews. Most of the online review environments allow you to counter message, to respond, to engage, to make solutions. So you need to become very comfortable with those. My focus is more along the lines of knocking things down from search, but if you want to contact me, I can get you more information on that. Building a good reputation is not easy. Even when I was being paid $30,000 a month as whale hunter at reputation.com, we couldn't guarantee really any changes for, when we said 3 months, we lied. When we said 6 months, we were being more clear. But we made sure that the client would engage us for a year's time, because it's really hard sometimes. If someone is having a hard enough time that they're willing to drop $30K a month and they're willing to pay 6 months in advance, it's not going to be an easy solution, or they would have, called up their nephew and had him do it. So in that case, we have huge resources at reputation.com, and so it'll be outside of the scope today. But armoring is very effective. So building a good reputation is not easy. Actions need to match words. In other words, your reputation is terrible when you say I love you, but then you don't buy me flowers, you don't play me love songs, you don't buy me jewelry. Pay close attention to public sentiment. Listen, listen, listen. Proactive online reputation to protect against attacks or misunderstandings. Ongoing high-quality interaction with stakeholders. And reputation management for key executives or other prominent figures. Don't forget the staff, and not just the brand. Staff too. They can really mess you up. Do an aggressive domain name buy. All variations, even with hyphens, misspellings, your company, your company, your company, for example. Variation domains, if it's XYZ program, put an E, not just program. Similar domains. Domain investors and marketers often steal traffic and harm brand by creating similarly branded and named properties that succeed parasitically off of common user error and intentional misdirection. Bed Bath Beyond rather than Bed Bath and Beyond for the homeware superstore. Transpose letter domains. You Company or your campaign, etc. Search string domains. Make a list of keywords, search terms, and phrases that one might use to find your company and register as many of them as possible. Google will make the association. Staff member domains. C-suite, can't make an assumption that everybody is like me and has like the 10 variations of Chris Abraham. And unfriendly domains, it's important to make sure that any derisive domains are registered, like Chris Abraham sucks, which I don't think I own anymore. Competitors are not above hosting slanderous websites and web properties. Even if it's just for a little while, it's not that hard to map a domain name on a Tumblr blog or on a Blogger blog or on a WordPress.com or a TypePad or a movable type or even you can map a domain name for $5 a month on a Squarespace site. Really simple. Even though your company sucks.com may never be used or even registered, the price of registering even dozens of domain names at $9 a year is cheaper than any crisis response or legal actions. Remember it that way. Even if it ends up that you have to spend $1,000 a year, think about the difference between that and $30,000 a month. Dominate the first page of Google. Control all possible social media profiles is one way. One of the easiest ways of doing a quick search results land grab is to secure as many social media profiles as makes sense. Be sure to spend some time filling out every required section. Links, bios, names, and keywords are essential parts. Be sure to include all keyword terms that are apropos. All versions of your name, even long spelled out, even if you're an acronym now. And there are hundreds, right? So go to knowem.com. I'm not in any way associated with them, but they're my secret weapon. And they can make the process easier. You just put in the name that you want, and if you spend enough money, they'll work with you on a bio. You can have a bio, you can have descriptions, you can pre-link, you can include URLs. Just grab them all. Grab them for your top executives, grab them for your brand. So you'll have them down the road when Facebook isn't the top thing. You'll have your Google Plus already. You'll have your LinkedIn. You'll have all these other things. Also, if you can, start trying to grow, your LinkedIn and Facebook, and find out how to make your URL look like mine. LinkedIn.com/in/Chris Abraham, as opposed to LinkedIn.com/in/ equals 546544433 ++++, whatever that is. Check out Knowem. I was going to give more information about knowem.com, including prices, but I don't want this to be a shilling thing. Review sites. Encourage your customers to say nice things about you there. Make it as easy as possible to write reviews for you. Name the preferred review sites by name. That is redundant. Include review sites' names, Charity Navigator, Yelp, etc. Suggest what to write. People have writer's block. They don't like writing. Just give them a launch pad. Don't tell them to copy and paste. In this world, copying and pasting doesn't work. It's terrible. This is not an attempt to shill. This is an attempt to activate your natural allies and the people who love you. You're Goodwill after all. Everybody loves you. I love you. Funny story. Forget it. I'll tell you at the end. Don't be shy to make bold requests for reviews. I notice every one of your sites that I've visited asks or requests an email address to collect you for newsletters and stuff. Don't be shy. Print it out, display it at point of sale or in stores. Print it out in a message on sales receipt if you can. Maybe tell people that they can have a certain, encouragement. as part of the official messaging via email, mail, or newsletters, and via social media. Pandering is okay, man. Alms go to people who beg. I'm not saying beg. I'm not saying you need alms, but you need to ask for what you want. People are so psyched, and it would never occur to them that you're vulnerable or that you need reviews. Um, Very few people have the experience. The only person I know who does it is my girlfriend, who every time she has a good experience at a restaurant, bar, or anywhere else, goes right home and writes the most beautiful Yelp review in the history of the world. My contribution is I Instagram every place I go and save something very nice, and then tweet it, Facebook it, Flickr it, blah, blah, blah. But honestly, restaurateurs live and die by Yelp reviews, so she's probably got a better idea. Email lists. If you don't have an email list, start one, even if it's not the same one as your newsletter, even if it's a way of, after you're doing listening online, if you can start to cherry pick people who say nice things about you, say, hey, I noticed you say nice things about us. Would you like to be part of an email activation list? Like if something happens, or if there's special news, or if there's press release, or if there's an announcement, I would like to be able to reach out to you and let you know. To activate you on our behalf, either to defend us or to share with your friends or to know, or even give you a little bit of a heads up that there's going to be an awesome, I don't know, tweed hunting jacket. I don't know. It could be that. It could be that personal. I mean, it could be that personal if you're in a neighborhood. You might even be able to go out and find bloggers who are natural allies. But we'll talk about blogger outreach later and bring them in for an after-hours shopping spree. I don't know. And empower the people you serve. Um, I know it can be, it's just great. If there is a brand confusion about the mission of Goodwill, empowering the people you serve may make things clearer. Creating opportunity for beneficiaries to speak well of Goodwill on sites other than Goodwill properties can really benefit. Some of the great places to collect do your messaging is Aweber, Constant Contact, MailChimp, and Nation Builder, for example. Oh, and by the way, that crazy insect on the top right, since you're probably looking there, is my logo. It's a water bug, a water strider, a pond strider. Um, its Latin name is Garrus. So I've named my company after the Latin genus of a bug. Social networking services. Now this is where you can really get the mojo. This is an extension of the Noam land grab, but you need to really participate here because as spammers, social media spammers, and social media SEO experts, and black hats and gray hats, and gamers and hustlers and marketers have gotten better and better at fooling Google, Google's getting back at them by changing its algorithm to do a better job at separating robots from people and separating marketers from community members. So they, with the advent of Hummingbird, Panda, and Penguin algorithm updates, they have built in. It's not just backlinks. It's not just the sharing and of PageRank Google Juice. It's not just keyword term links. It's also integration with social media, social networks, primarily Google, Google Plus, Google Plus Pages, and your Google Plus profile. This is a way that Google tries to get you out of being anonymous, and brings you out of the dark and into the light, where they get to know exactly who you are, what you are. They ask you things about what kind of sites do you post to, who are you associated with, do you blog, are you a columnist, do you write for anything? There's a new thing called Google Authorship, where you can say, for example, I write for Biznology and socialmedia.biz and socialmediatoday.com and socialmediamonthly.com. thesocialmediamonthly.com, and also um, I've written for Rosetta Stone blog, and I've written for Huffington Post, and all these things I'm an author for. So when Google finds my content, finds content online, it's like, oh, this is Chris's stuff. So it'll then package it and say, this is highly authoritative because I know it's Chris's stuff, and I know he has a history of writing good content. Um, like I said, YouTube um, is super important, as are images, Google image search, but you need to really think about a YouTube channel, because YouTube is the second largest search engine with results that come up in routine Google search, in addition to images. LinkedIn page, totally powerful and search optimized. Facebook page, also SEO optimized, and a powerful platform to prepare in case you need to message during a crisis. Same thing with Twitter. And you need to get you really should encourage um, all of your top brass and as many people as you can to register their own spaces, their own pages, their own profiles, and so forth. Not pages, but their own profiles and so forth. I forgot to mention an amazing tool called Gaggle Amp, and a bunch of other content marketing tools. But that's a different. Um, that is a different talk, I believe. So it's important once you get these things started. Unlike the Noam, where you can go ahead and just squat a lot of those, especially if you have 300 new profiles, these are the ones that you need to keep going. You need to update your Google Plus page, even if you just use the content that you produce for Facebook page. You need to create Twitter content. You need to share as much of your content onto these sites as possible. You need to encourage a followership of likers, of plussers, of um, of people in your circles, of friends and followers. You need to really work on developing a campaign around social media, even if it's not to engage with your followers. Just like your website is only 50%, I would say 30–40% dedicated to real people coming to your site, unless you're an e-commerce site. I would say 80% is search. On e-commerce site, it's more like the other way around. You know, you can't sell anything if your site's not working. But when it comes to a kind of a quasi-brochureware site, you know, robots are the things that come every day, you know. Generally speaking, unless you create content and really drive visitors, search is going to be the thing that helps you more than, you know, putting URLs at the bottom of your signature file in your email. Goodwill is a publishing empire, blogging, as long as it's on a separate domain. I notice most of your sites have blogging that is within your domain, integrated into your content management system, your CMS, your site. Now that's awesome, but what we want to do is we want to spread the love around onto different sites. Your blogging could be done at Tumblr. It could be done, you know, Tumblr's great. You should just all use Tumblr. Publishing, find people, your board, your CEO, your president, your marketing person, pimp them out on Huffington Post, Medium, BuzzFeed, Forbes, etc. You know, use some of your younger members, your younger executives. Try to get top 10 lists why Goodwill is super awesome. The more distributed, the more consistent, the more germane, the more compelling, the more salient, the better. Like my synonym list, I really didn't say anything. Anyway, aggregation. Some sites aggregate best of content. This might be a secret way into Google News, which I'll talk about next. Business to community and Yahoo, small business. All these sites steal my content off of other sites and print them as their own with a link back to the source site. And so when I get onto business to community, I get a huge bump in viewership and relevance, and it helps my Google authorship because it means that I'm published broadly. and not just merely a blogger, but a whatever is better than that, a journalist, a reporter. Um, and even if you have a really good focused news source um, talking about the industry, the nonprofit world or whatever, you can even apply to become a wire service for things like AOL, Yahoo, Microsoft, and of course Google News. I've never been able to do it. I'm too all across the board, but um, I know that social media today is a news platform. Um, and then cross pollination. There's all kinds of content happening. I know that this is there's GII, and then there's all the local organizations, and it's like herding cats, and there's each particular organization, each local store and local organization has a lot of its own control and its own branding, but all the branding, any crisis in one eddy can affect the entire brand. It can go from the bottom up, it can go from the top down, it can go laterally. So there can be a lot of cross-pollination. If there was a way, if you don't already do it, to share up. Why did I say CII? Anyway, GII can aggregate best of content from regionals. Sharing down, regional Goodwills could share GII news. I need to update this, I'm sorry. This will be updated by Wednesday. And then you can share laterally, cross-pollinating across regionals, so that you can say, hey, to the north of me, guess what's going on there? To the south of me, guess what's going on there? Hey, I heard from the group over here. This is what's going on. It'd be a really great way to be able to steal content from each other, and then benefit each other as a result by creating a larger flotilla. What you want to do is create the biggest, if you will, school of fish possible, so that when something happens, when there's a shark in the water, it sees that big school of fish and assumes it's a bigger shark, or doesn't know where to start gobbling. Um, so become a publishing empire. Find someone to act as the editor desk and go searching around for good content and pick favorites and recommend, hey, you guys just did a capital campaign. Guess what these guys did over here? You might have that. I didn't ask enough questions from the powers that be, but it's very exciting stuff if you can get it going. I know that you're decentralized. That might be wrong, and that it's a little bit of a bottoms-up organization, and that might be wrong, but I'm happy to talk about it during the question and answer session. Or if we run out of time, then just tap me. I'm here until tomorrow afternoon. Well, for people who are there. But I'm going to be in Orlando until Thursday afternoon, so please feel free to tap me. Influencer marketing, it's what I do. I do blogger outreach. I have been doing earned media marketing for over 7 years, including blogger outreach and influencer marketing for Alzheimer's Association, the Fresh Air Fund of New York, Greenpeace, Habitat for Humanity, International Medical Corps, and my own Miriam's Kitchen. Bloggers and other influencers are willing to bend over backwards to help out for free, especially to nonprofits, and that's what earned media means. Online engagement, people collect and self-organize, find them. Facebook and LinkedIn groups, Pinterest boards, Flickr groups, online forums, especially online forums. Oh, especially people who talk about, oh my goodness, hipsters, man. They love Goodwill, right? Find the hipsters. They will speak beautifully on your behalf. They're all English majors, just like me. Blogger outreach, if it exists, there's a blog about it. Include the long tail, reach out to hundreds of bloggers, and not merely the top 25. Those top 25 are so busy and are having their bottoms so thoroughly wined and dined that if you go a little bit deeper into the conversation, you can really find birds of a feather. Every single one of your organizations, every single one of your regionals, you can find people in the area who would be more than willing to act as a de facto wire service on any event, anything that's happening, especially if they get to meet you in person. I know that the gang from Miriam's Kitchen wooed me by taking me to lunch, me personally to lunch, buying me lunch, talking to me, asking for my advice. Really cool stuff. Content marketing, creating stories others will post and share. You can always become a guest blogger, or you can get a requested guest blogger to your blogs. You can create or have you can create an infographic that you can share, talking about uh, the process behind Goodwill. What happens when you drop off um, 100 dress shirts that you don't wear anymore because you got skinny. Videos, day in the life of, doesn't have to be anything highly produced, especially at the regional areas. I mean, go to youtube.com/Chris Abraham. Oh, shame, shame. But, I have over a million, I have over 800 videos. I have well over a million views. Um, you know, People are looking for answers. If you can answer them, it doesn't have to be tied with a bow. And then you can, of course, do events, pledge drives. You can have contests. There's any number of things that you can do to get people talking. And you don't have to pay. Well, you have to pay for internal resources, of course. Evading long-term damage after a crisis. Here's what you probably want to know, even though I think armoring is so much more important. When a crisis occurs, don't panic. Also, don't click. If you find anything bad online, don't click on it. Google tracks building interest. Do not speak to the media. Take time to prepare your response. Your response has consequences. Rely on your crisis managers. Stay off of Twitter, Facebook, etc. Alert your chain of command. You're probably not properly trained, even if you think you are, even if you've been doing it for 30 years. Call communications and public affairs. They can give you guidance. Prepare, activate talking points. Do not wing a response. Prepare in advance if possible. Even if you're not going to read a prepared statement, you need to write down what you're going to say before you throw it away, just so you can have the ideas sorted in your head. And initiate online reputation management plan. ORM is about keeping the crisis off of permanent search results. Just because something's in the news doesn't mean it'll end up on search. Newspapers, maybe magazines stay on search for a while, but if newspapers create so much content that Google has to kind of time them out. So there's a lot of opportunities for things like news service, AP, AFP, whatever, UPI. All these news flashes, all these press releases and stuff that might attack you won't necessarily stick. They'll really bother you for a little while, and if you follow through with your ORM plan rigorously and fearlessly and shamelessly over time, you'll be able to make sure that slides right off. And even if it does stick, it'll stick to page 4, well below your bulwark. Basically, it's simple, right? The technique of ORM: search, actively seek out positive and neutral content. You define what your point of pain is. Like I said, I had an oligarch client, Russian oligarch. He was trying to hide the fact that he had been accused of absconding Russia with billions of dollars. He didn't like that because he became a movie producer, and he didn't want people to think that he ran away with money. It was his money. It was just Putin didn't like him. So he didn't mind having, it's Hollywood, right? There were pictures of him with showgirls and models and drinks in his hand and people jumping into pools and boats and cars and everything else like that. He didn't have a problem with that, but maybe the billionaire or the company that had the billionaire on staff, you choose your own point of pain. Collect all those positive, negative, and neutral stuff that already exists and aggressively promote it to all the search engines. You need to reactivate all the deep stuff. You need to submit it to search engines. You need to aggregate it into a new blog. You need to repost it. You need to post and link to it. We can go into more details as to in terms of strategy, but you need to create new content and you need to reactivate old content. What I would do is I would create a blog that's a little bit like um, oh, what's the name of that blog? I would create an aggregation blog, where you go ahead and you have a little bit of a summary, and then a headline, then a link to the original article. All those links going away to those original content stirs up Google, gets them to look at old content again. What you're trying to do is you're trying to create chaff and flare, chaff and flare. You're trying to, if you're a scuba diver or you go swimming in swamps or in ponds, kicking up silt. This is Florida, There's all kinds of silt and there's octopi. You need to do the equivalent of squirting ink to elude capture. Or you need to kick up the bottom of the pond and create a murk. Create additional positive and neutral content about your brand, and then leverage. After positive pages and content has been identified and created, leverage established Google Mojo. The effect is negative results are buried. This flare, see? A military airplane. A military airplane is flaring as a way of distracting infrared heat-seeking missiles away from the heat of its jet engine by creating lots of other very hot, appealing targets to confuse the missile and send it away. Negative results were buried. You can't remove them. No matter what anybody tells you, removing results are unicorns. Removing results are unicorns. Unicorns with wings, like Pegasus and unicorns. That commercial with the pink or purple? It's like that. Those pages we promote climb past the negative pages and push the negatives down to a point in the results where very few people are ever going to stumble across them. And positive results keep the search engine's attention. We compare the strategy to the sort of countermeasures called soft kill measures that aircraft use to evade missile attacks: chaff, decoys, flare decoys, and radar decoys. So your first steps are to claim yourcompany.com in as many useful variations as possible, more the better. Fill out profiles on industry listing sites, review sites, social media, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter. Create new content, start a blog, publish information of relevance to the business, generate positive press, get involved philanthropically. Now, that's always a good idea. I mean, even if it's hobbies, even if it's not necessarily philanthropy, start to, like, I've got a motorcycle that I'm in love with by the name of Pony, which is the Hawaiian word for purple, P-O-N-I. It's a 95 BMW K1100 LT touring bike with 79,000 miles on it, and I love it to death. And if I knew that I needed to control more of my reputation, I would definitely start I tried to start it. It didn't actually take place. I started a Tumblr dedicated to the motorcycle. I love riding my single-speed Surly. I would write an entire Tumblr or blog about that. I would make a way of finding more and more content that is easy for me to write about. I'm passionate about PR and marketing and social media, passionate about current events. That's why I write for Huffington Post. Passionate about social media, which is why I write for all those platforms. Don't do something that you can't stick with for a long time. If you love golf, write about golf. If you love surfing, write about surfing, sailboarding, etc. Just make sure you create content. Even if you're shy, it's no time to be shy, right? Google abhors a vacuum. Be part of the conversation. The web is going to say something about you whether you like it or not. Engage in social media. Communicate regularly with your stakeholders. Respond authentically to their concerns. Share information of value. And finally, keep tabs on all of the websites connected to your business, especially those you don't control: forums, review sites, and social media. Common mistakes. ORM isn't SEO. If you treat online reputation management like an SEO, you will dominate the first result, but you won't have control of anywhere else. You need to promote. You need to do SEO for 30 sites. SEO for at least 10 sites. 30 is better. You're armoring. What is it? The difference? Cover, concealment. You don't want to. First page is like concealment. You literally want someone to be able to fire an RPG at you and like be able to walk away. You need 3 layers of pages between you and a direct assault. Um, there's different levels of body armor, right? There's the fabric, Kevlar, and then there's the different levels of Kevlar, and then there's different levels of steel plate. Um, you want, at the very least, to have a good full cover Kevlar vest for your reputation. But if you have the time or resources, or if you're in a very controversial environment, or if you represent a very big, fragile brand, you want to figure out how to get an M1 Abrams tank around you, or get behind the Great Wall of China. I don't know. But if you can get the first 3 pages, you're good. You're good. There's always going to be churn. It's never going to be the same 30 results. But you need to push everything else down. If you are not a high-profile individual, that shouldn't be hard. Company websites optimize, problems with the device. MyStar is a set-top box for Australia's Austar television. No amount of SEO spend can fix an ORM issue. You can just spend and spend and spend just on your own site. You can add a blog. You can create content in there. Unless you spread that content around to 30 discrete platforms, different domains and different services and different servers and that kind of thing, it's never going to take. You cannot rely on litigation. Success rates are low. Sometimes it's appropriate. Ask your lawyer. Weigh the pros and cons. Litigation can make the problem worse. You send a cease and desist letter, they scan it, and they post it everywhere. 2008, the British Chiropractic Association sued science writer Simon Singh for criticizing them, provoked a serious backlash. 4 years later, half page 1 results for the BCR negative portrayals of the case. Will not review argument, cease and desist, will not review. Ethically questionable. You may end up on the wall of shame of healthcare review sites. This was reused from another deck, so please forgive me. But you're probably not going to do it. This is an example of a gag contract. It's unlikely to hold up in court. People are going to go ahead and mock you. It's going to get scanned and upload to Imager. It's going to show up on Reddit, and you're going to be a laughingstock. It breaks the First Amendment. It breaks the rule of law of internet content creation. It alienates people, and it encourages people to go digging for negative reviews. And I'm going to reword this page so you guys get to see the draft. Woohoo! Threatening litigation. Most attacks by patients fall under the category of opinion not considered libel. Negative information may be reposted even if successful taken down. Litigation tends to attract a landslide of negative reactions. Even if you win, your practice's reputation may have already been irreparably damaged. I am going to reword this as well. Fake reviews, so tempting, right? FTC does not allow it. It's illegal. It can be detected algorithmically. It might work for a little while, but it will come to bite you. These people are a lot smarter than you are in many cases. They'll follow your IP. They'll follow your behavior. They'll even know your MAC address, quite possibly, which is the machine you're working on. You'll get caught up in the review authenticity arms race. Review sites and researchers constantly refining approaches. So, you might spend all this time doing something fake. And when it comes to all this stuff, right? I mean, even if you do all of this stuff, you're not going to have an old 4, 5, 6-year-old Yelp profile with hundreds, if not tens and 20s of reviews. I mean, no matter what, you pop in, create a new profile, do a review, and then leave. Do that 20 times, that's garbage. You need to keep buying into fake review services forever to one-up them. Um, Savvy reviewers can spot fakes and read them up to 10 and read up to 10 reviews before making a decision. And if people see a lot of fakes, you risk an online backlash. Um, Depends on how I mean, if people do it, man. It's all over the place. But I don't know. I don't recommend it. Commenting in attack blogs, forums. You got to be bold. I would always recommend counter messaging on your own platform. I would never recommend going into the belly of the beast. Um, Even if you have a really thick hide, even if you are powerfully, um, you're gonna, no matter what happens, at some point you're gonna get defensive. You're gonna say something you don't mean. It's not even worth it. And in fact, all that attention, creating more and more content in the comments, just gives more and more traction to Google. They'll look at some sort of archival conversation that might be over, not even on the first page of a blog anymore, and they'll do a checksum, which is to say they want to see whether or not there's actually a conversation happening, whether there's been content added, whether this is fluid and in motion, and it'll just reactivate it. You can reactivate something that has gone quite been mummified, and plus you'll get attacked. And head in the sand, Um, you just need to know what's out there. You need to deal with it. You need to figure out what your next step is going to be. You're going to figure out whether you not need to deal with something through a lawyer. You need to deal with something through your crisis communication team. You need to deal something through a PR. You need to do something through counter messaging. You need to solve a problem. You need to have a metanoia and change your life and behave nicer and be a better restaurateur, have a better experience at a store, um, or just, what is it, eat crow, is that what it's called? Um, and I believe that's the end of the presentation. Thank you for following this long, warts and all. I see that I have to make some changes to the copy. I believe that didn't change the tenor of the conversation. And I really appreciate your time, attention. Don't forget, you can contact me at chris@garriscorp.com. You can send me a note via garriscorp.com. You can call me or text me, 202-352-5051. Contact me on Twitter, LinkedIn, Google+, Facebook, YouTube, SlideShare, Pinterest. This deck will be on SlideShare after I edit it, and this imperfect recording will be on YouTube. I appreciate all of your time and attention, and I look forward to meeting you in the future. Have a good day.